actually on the county commission. We had property grown up in the Florida Keys, and we had to go through this process. We were mandated by the federal government. The entire county was being fined because of the septic tanks and the effluent that's being pumped right out of Key West up into the 80s, right out into the ocean. And it did cost, the cost was not only getting hooked up to the sewer system, but the physical removal of the septic systems that were put in there, starting with the earliest inhabitants there. And no one realized what would happen as more and more people accumulated, but it was basically killing the coral reefs and the fish and the sea life there quickly. But during that process, they determined that there was just as much damage coming down from the west coast of Florida, from the outlets of all the rivers, including the local rivers right here, the Peace River and the Mayaca and the Caloosahatchee, were pumping out agriculture and cattle ranching fecal coliform and feeding the overnutrient problem that feeds the red tide. We were in the fishing business, and we were forced to deal with the red tide issues with our crabbing and shrimping and lobster business and the effects in the seabed. So we through the study, it was determined that 90% of the problem was not even local. It was what was flowing down from the rivers right here in southwest Florida. So I think that there's a lot more to look at in where the real sources from the Caloosahatchee, when they reach 15 feet at the lake and they dump Bob Graham's cattle ranching runoff into the rivers, and it flows out here into the estuary. Then you have a fecal coliform bloom, which then also results in a cascading effect with the formation of red tide, the cyanobacteria that they're trying to figure out how to control. Every time there's a heavy rain, it runs off all the fertilizer from all the golf courses and the private properties. And I just have one question: Why are we still approving? What is it, 5,000 to 7,000 more homes right here in Charlotte County, and not mandating that every new home is built and connected to a sewer system, automatically built with those connections to the road, rather than letting them build with septic tanks and continuing the problem and exacerbating the situation? And besides the mysterious water shortage that seems to have vanished as soon as the developers show up with enough money.
All right, well, let's let him answer the question. 5,000 to 7,000 homes. Hell, it's a boom town again.
Well, I wish. I wish we had that kind of growth going on right now. You know, it's a good question, though. And a lot of the comments relative to loadings are right on point. I mean, there's for years we've understood that the ag properties up the rivers and so forth, Caloosahatchee.
And for that point, the Mississippi and the other rivers that drain into the Gulf.
So there's no question that the loadings, the nutrient loadings, and other things that are causing problems with our downstream on the rivers can be attributed, a lot of it, to the agricultural properties. I think there's going to be a long-term initiative by the state, I think, and the water management districts to start addressing that. I believe there has to be.
How do you address that?
Well, it's going to have to be incentives. You know, I don't know what that will be yet.
Getting the cattle to poop on a newspaper, or what?
It's just there's probably ways of, and I know there's some people looking at it right now from a regional perspective. Too early to say what it would be, but everybody understands that in order for ag properties to address their water quality issues, discharge issues, there's going to have to be some financial incentives. And so how do you do that? How that gets worked out, and it has to be ideally at the sources. I mean, you just can't take all these properties east of us and then somewhere close to the discharge point, the creeks and rivers.
It's all your point. Hey, it's all your fault.
What are you going to do? So we've got to try to figure it out. But the one step at a time. We've just got to take the things that we know we can address and control. And again, the septic systems, the real problem is a septic system on a larger piece of property. Like my particular home up in North Carolina, I've got about 2 acres. No problem. When you have quarter-acre lots and hundreds of thousands of them in septic systems, that's where you get the concentration. That's where you get the real issue. So this is something we've got to address. But he's right on point, though. There needs to be some also looking at other land uses that contribute to some of the problem.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Indeed.